Hello, William. What do you do for a living?
First of all, thank you, Richie, for inviting me to this session. So, so what do I do as a living? In short, I'm actually in the recruitment industry, and recruitment industry actually has two. One is like internal, and one is external. So I'm actually in the external recruitment, and oftentimes, external recruitment usually associated as headhunting or like recruitment firm. That's what they call it. So I work in the recruitment industry and so-called the talent advisory industry. So my role is really serve as an intermediary between candidates or individuals versus the company or my client. So in the company perspective, they are always there to hiring the right talent, right? And of course, professionals or individuals, they wanted to move to a company. So my role is actually basically the intermediary between both parties.
Thanks
Yep.
for sharing. It shows
Yep.
that you're the expert in talent. So, what are the signs to change job? Is it because of the toxic environment, or is it because of the stingy company, or what are the reasons that can push us away from the job and signs to change to a better job opportunity?
Okay, very good question. Your question actually has many types of answers because a lot of people look for many very different things in life. And I think when you talk about so-called career progression, it's oftentimes changes from time to time. When you work in a company for 1 year, your motivation is probably, wanting to learn. But when you work in a company for probably like 3 years, your motive changes as the time goes by. So one of the so-called I saw a lot of people actually left their job or wanting to have a push factor, right? Is because they kind of reach a, a job satisfaction which is probably at the zero level already. So in other words, right, people leave because career stagnation. So give you an example. I just quote chemical, right? Because one of the industries that I recruit is actually chemical. Like maybe, someone that comes from distributor, they work very long in a distributor kind of environment. So maybe they feel that career stagnation already. So they want to go to a manufacturer. Because distributor will not change to manufacturing or principal in forever, right? So they have to change the environment to go to another manufacturer to expose new things. So career stagnation is one thing. What you said is also true, toxic environment. So oftentimes when you go to another company, right, not sometimes you only do the job. You also work with a lot of other people, your bosses, the corporate people, different stakeholders. And oftentimes all these peoples, right, they have like 10 to 15 people and 20 people, and this might actually create a toxic environment. Some people will say that a fear-based management. So fear-based management, right, it really depends on how the leaders run the company. Is it very top-down approach? Is it when the person say on top, we do this, there's no clear direction, people just follow? Or oftentimes, as you can see, that some companies, right, the direction keep changing, project keep changing. Today do this, tomorrow change that. No structure. So it became like a constant blame culture, poor leadership communication. Maybe when once done that, a lot of staff resign, toxic environment. So there's many also other reasons like, misalignment with market value. Sometimes when you work for a company, right, you realize that, am I getting paid in the same value as what other companies is paying? Or maybe the increment of the company is very stagnant, no progression in terms of like salary package. Yeah. And last but not least, people often leave is because of not the company, but bosses. So I've often, I mean, a lot of times when individuals work in any company, right, a lot of times you have to see who are you reporting to and whether you can learn from this person or not. If a time that this person cannot learn anything extra from this person, right, you know that you have to change your environment already. Because if you continue to be with this person, probably you will not learn extra thing, or probably you're not get exposed to a different way of running the job. So people will leave. So again, all these timeline or all these reasonings, right, it depends on what is the stages of one individual timeline. Some could straight away work 5 years, career stagnation. Some is until already, bosses not good. And I've seen a lot of cases also like, like some candidates, they actually work in one company, right? After 2 months, the boss left. So what happened? Changes of everything.
Wow, we have covered quite a number of important points. So employers out there, do take note on the career stagnation that your employee might have. So red flag there, you have to take care of your employee not to have stagnation in terms of the career. And of course, top-down approach is not a very good leadership skill that I would say. And of course, bosses not to be a toxic one, but to be an encouraging one. And the last point that you mentioned about salary, that's a very interesting and attractive point. I'm going to discuss more in depth later on. So when you talk about signs to change job, right? Okay, maybe someone thinks that it's the right timing for me to move on job because I've done enough. We don't want to do the same thing again and again and again. So I want to go for the interview. So how do we prepare interview? Because there are multiple layers of interview from recruiter, the HR, direct reporting, and even the management. Is there any difference in terms of the preparation or they are the same? How do we prepare to nail and ace the interview?
Okay. Before you go for any interviews, right, it is very important for you to know the information about the interviewer. Who will be the person who interview you? Okay, so let's start with recruiter. Recruiter is basically a person who just wanting to understand about your job role. This one you can be very flexible because recruiter just wanting to know about your career progression. What do you want to do? So a lot of oftentimes you can just share about what do you feel you wanted to do in your next career. Maybe you want to lead a team in your next company. You can tell the person. Maybe you want to change industry. Oftentimes you can do so, let the recruiter know. And maybe you wanted to change like the product that you're handling. Maybe you are doing this, you want to upscale your product to the next level, let the recruiter know. So recruiter relationship is really just more like sharing your information of what you want to that person so that this recruiter, right, they can actually job match you based on the criteria that you told them. Okay, so that's recruiter. If you talk about HR, right, as I mentioned before, every interviewer is assessing you in a very different lens. Okay, HR interview, right, is very straightforward. They are not the hiring manager. So basically, they are not the person who is going to assess you like your technical skills, your job role, your achievements, not all that. HR is always wanting to know you as a person, like career stability. Or why you keep changing this job? They want to know what is the reason that you leave every job. Why? They want this person to work in the company for a long term. Okay. Second thing is a lot of times when you go for HR interview, right, they will really ask you about or drill you around about your motivation for change. Do you want to work in my company? Why do you want to work in my industry? And third thing, whenever they talk to you, it's all about culture fit. So if let's say you meet face to face with the HR person, right, and then your role is a sales role. Salesperson in terms of culture fit, what do they look for? They look for a person who is high energy. They look for a person who is high enthusiasm. They look for a person who is able to interact with people with different level and different stakeholders. If you go for a leadership role, right, HR interviews will always asking about your leadership style. What kind of leadership do you carry? Are you the type of person who is hands-on? Are you the type of person who always push down the responsibility to your people to run the show? And how do you actually manage your people under you? So HR is always talking about, all these layer of topic: career stability, motivation of change, cultural fit, personality. And last but not least, they will also ask you about your salary expectation. So let's say you're earning X of amount of money. What do you want? What do you want next? So they are the person who actually write all these checklists, right? And after when they gather all this information, they will pass it to the hiring manager. Okay, this individual is doing this, or the reason why he jumped this job is because of this. What he's looking for is this. His salary is this. Then the hiring manager will actually like get a sense of this individual already, right? So at least when hiring manager actually access you in a job responsibility, they already know in terms of the non-job role criteria. Okay, so when you go to another type of interview, which is a direct manager, right? Okay, direct manager is so-called your hiring manager, the person that this person will be reporting to. And hiring manager often assess you in terms of technical competency. What is your job all about? What do you do? problem-solving ability, your working style. How do you work in this industry? How the way you perform in the company? And how do you execute all these kind of capabilities, when you're performing a job? Okay, so let me just share an example. When you talk about how do I say, a technical role, of course, the hiring manager will assess, okay, in terms of technical job, what is your technical competency? How do you, what kind of project you have done? What kind of achievements have you gathered from these 2 to 3 years that you're working in this company? How do you solve this issue? And oftentimes, hiring manager will always give you like a scenario based, like if our company is doing this right now, what is the things that you can actually add on? And oftentimes, right, a lot of people, when they go for interview for hiring manager, always remember to show your value. Value means, right, how do you show value that you can help the company to go into the next level rather than just sharing all the job responsibilities that you have been doing so far. Job responsibilities, right? Everybody is also doing the same job like you, but how can you add value that is different from other people that they have interviewed so far? So when it comes to hiring managers preparation, right, I like to use this framework called SMART. SMART means, right, you share a situation about your project. Okay. Then second thing, right, you share about the measures that you have done. I do this, I do that, I created this, I involved with this project. Yeah. So the third one, A, right, is what kind of action have you done? So when you share all these examples, right, the hiring manager can clearly see that what is the value that you can actually articulate rather than just sharing your job responsibility. Then the hiring manager will get the sense about, okay, I know what this person is doing. Then R is what is the result. After when I do this technical production or technical chemist, the result is we have basically reduced the cost of raw materials, and this is eventually increase the profit margin of a company. So this is a very strong word, reduce costs. And this is something that hiring manager will always wanted to know. Yes, I know that you can do this job, you can reduce the cost of it. And this is a very, very good thing or advantage that an individual can share or the candidate. So the T is timeline. What kind of timeline are you focusing? So once you share this SMART framework, right, you are not just sharing your job, you are basically articulating your job responsibilities coupled with your achievements that you have actually done before throughout your whole career. And this will really, really talking about just you as a candidate and not just a random technical person that he or she maybe have interviewed like 2 to 3 people or 4 people before that already. And all this SMART thing is basically about yourself. And this is what going to be difference from what other people is doing. Okay. So
Wow.
the last but not least, right? A lot of times when you go for hiring manager, the first interview, you need to go for the final round, which is probably the senior manager, the CEO or director. Okay, senior management people, right? They don't usually zoom down into your job anymore already. Because why? Hiring managers already done it. So senior management or director or CEO kind of level, right? People are usually talking about what are your strategy thinking? Leadership kind of role. What is your leadership mindset? What kind of role that you can do that can impact my business? And last but not least, long-term fit or microeconomics. Senior management, they always love to talk about big picture thinking. Big picture thinking means like, what is your long-term goal and whether this company can provide you in terms of a long-term goal. Okay, vision of the role. If you're going as a technical manager, what is technical manager afterwards? Okay, what kind of team that you can carry on? And normally for senior management or director or CEO level, right, they always want like, if you were to come to my company, right, will you change anything or will you make it worse? Okay, so after when all these senior management, right, remember they are like the owners of the company. So the way how you impress them is also going to be very different comparing to the hiring manager's interview and also the HR interview.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you very much for the comprehensive sharing. This is a very different perspective that we need to prepare differently based on interviewer.